Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and of course, drop me a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys. It goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this week we are on issue number 64 of good old Combat Patrol magazine. It is part 1 of 2 of our Genestealer Cult's Neophyte hybrids. So these are your core range of troops really for the good old Genestealer Cults. There are some slight build variations and options for them, so if you wanted to, you can vary from how the magazine's really guiding you to. So you can have more shotgun wielding, you can have more rifle wielding, to change for different heavy weapons and all that type of stuff if you wanted to. Entirely your choice. And as well as having a whole array of heads, so you have 10 more human-like heads and 4 more alienish heads on this sprue alone, and there might be more on the other sprue, I'm not 100% sure, but pretty cool stuff. I do quite like these chappies because they're a little bit different and a little bit more unique, and they're not just bland run-of-the-mill soldiers. They're a little bit more fun and different to look at, which is always really, really good when it comes to Warhammer models, in my opinion. I like having a little bit more of a variation in units. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And yeah, I am looking forward to building these. Obviously, just got to wait till next week to get the other parts to it and all the bases, which, you know, it's just a shame, but it is what it is at the end of the day, isn't it? Anywho, going into this week's issue, obviously first off, it's a minis issue, so we are greeted by the how to build guide. It does detail that there are different heads, so you can utilise different ones if you wanted to. It's going to walk you through building the leader, holding the pickaxe and the powerful sidearm that he likes to carry as well. Then you have things like the icon bearer, the seismic cannon, heavy stubber, webbers, and then things like your shotgun wielding hybrids and such like that. So you get to have a little bit of fun with it, change it up how you want to build it, but a really, really nice array of units, and it can be a little bit fun as well. So pretty cool stuff. And Genestealer Cults are, I'm not going to say they're my favourite, but they are quite interesting at exactly the same time, aren't they? They're a little bit different, which I like. Different's quite fun, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Chaos Space Marines and I'm not a big fan of Space Marines. I like having a little bit of difference in there. Anyway, moving on from there, we actually do have a paint update as well. So this is all about adding extra colours to your current minis. So we've done it before with other minis over time. This is kind of catching us back up with things like our good old Chaos Space Marines and Orcs to make sure that they're a little bit more updated as well. So using Mephisto Red, Wild Rider Red and such like that for things like the cloth areas and the eyes of our Chaos Space Marines, which works very, very well and does exactly the job it's going to need to do, which, you know, I can't knock. So it does work very, very well. It makes them look pretty good. I do quite like the followers of the Dark Disciple having that little bit of an update as well. It's about time that they will have a little bit of a boost and a little bit of an update as well at exactly the same time. So pretty cool stuff. It does, yeah, does work very, very well. So yeah, I'm not going to knock it. It's exactly what it needs to do, which is the main thing. It's all about adding those little tiny details as well, including things like the icons and the bits for hanging on the spikes of the armours of the Chaos Space Marine Terminators and such like that, which adds more flair and detail to your minis, which I'm never going to knock because it's very, very worthy. Have found that. Still all a bit of a work in progress. There are more and more bits and pieces that can come later on, but generally you can have something that looks like that when you're done with your Chaos Space Marines so far up to the magazine standards, which, in all honesty, perfectly tabletop ready. You can't knock it. It works exactly how it needs to work. I will honestly say it's really good. It's not bad. Obviously, there are things like the flames and the censure and stuff like that need updating. But for a work in progress, these are all very, very nearly done. So, real good stuff. Moving on from there, though, it's an update to the orcs as well, including adding more of a Mephiston red and Wild Rider red and stuff like that to the red areas that the orcs have, including things like cloths, the front of the Boomdacker Snazwagon and such like that. Personally, I would bring up the Boomdacker Snazwagon even more. I would bring it up so it's a nice, bright, vibrant red, and then add highlights from there. So, yeah, that's how I personally would do it anyway. A bit of things like your Wild Rider red over a more of a brighter coloured red works very, very well. Even a little tiny bit of yellow sometimes as well. So a very, 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 very fine highlight of yellow over the kind of the sharp edges of reds can work very, very well. Over things like your more round kind of cloth areas, not so much. But it can help out massively. So you can make some really, really nice looking minis. In all honesty, I would bring the reds to be brighter though, personally. That's just the way I am though. But yeah, otherwise it does work very, very well. It's a nice colour. It works as a very nice colour scheme, and yeah, it does exactly the job it needs to do, which is exactly what you need to do, especially if you're learning to paint and you're following the guide as a guide, to put it quite bluntly, and you're wanting to follow it along and kind of paint along with the magazine. It is very, very good. I think the Boomdacker Snazwagon's a little bit too dark, personally, but I can see where they're going with it, which is the main point to it. It's all about adding those kind of highlights and layers to build up the colours over time, and walking you through it step by step, so you're not getting too far ahead of yourself and you're learning as you go. But I would make the Boomdacker Snazwagon brighter, personally, because I think that red's a bit too dark for it. I think it just doesn't look right. I think it looks too dark, in my opinion. I would definitely have it brighter. Bring it up with some bright reds. Use your oranges and a little tiny bit of yellow for your edge highlights and stuff like that on the metalwork. Even to kind of make it look like it's slightly scuffed, use a little bit of things like lead belcher and stuff like that, very, very sporadically. And you can make a really, really nice looking car out of it, which looks a little bit smoother and a little bit nicer than that one does, in my opinion. But it's up to you, obviously, how you want to go about doing it. But yeah, it's pretty cool either way. For the vehicle's one of the best vehicles, I think, that exists in 40k, in my opinion. So, still really good stuff. Anyway, moving on from there, we have part 15 of Bonds of Honor, our ongoing story in the 41st millennium, carrying on a bit more of that narrative and the storyline and such like that. If you're following the storyline, it's pretty good. I must admit, I'm a fair few parts behind on it at the moment, and eventually I will catch up, but not too sure when. But otherwise, pretty cool stuff, and yeah, it's a good story. It is a pretty decent story. Moving on from there, though, we have the Arsenal of the Ascension. So, the forces of the Genestealer cults acquire their weapons from diverse sources, sometimes stealing them, sometimes adapting other devices, and sometimes fabricating them from scratch. They build their armories in secret, preparing for their uprising when all secrecy is thrown off and they can finally attack in force. As the Genestealer cults wait for their day of ascension, they hoard the arms and munitions that they will need for their uprising. This is an effort that spans many generations, but in a galaxy constantly at war, it is an easy task to get hold of weaponry. Some of the weapons are simple firearms constructed by the Genestealer cults themselves. Others are stolen from the Imperial Army, perhaps taken in raids, or else diverted by agents of the cults who lurk within the ranks of the Astra Militarum and other military organisations. Many of the rest of her weapons are converted or repurposed from other devices of industry. The tools of construction and mining are excellent candidates to turn the purposes of war and destruction. So, the Genestealer cults are, what's the best way to describe them? A bit ramshackle. So they're a bit of a scavenger type army. So a lot of their weaponry is easily recognisable from the Astra Militarum, which is probably why GW, if you go to the Genestealer cults on the Warhammer website, on warhammer.com, you will see that the Genestealer cult section also includes Astra Militarum, because you can easily convert Astra Militarum Genestealer cults. So whether you wanted to add, a tank to it. So if you wanted to add, say, like a Bane Blade or something like that, to the Genestealer cults, you can. You just need a few of the upgrades and a few of the bits and pieces that you can utilise to get them to kind of convert across in a roundabout way. The same with Astra Militarum soldiers. If you wanted to convert them to Genestealer cults, it can be relatively easy to do, and yeah, you can have a bit of fun with it if you feel like a little bit of kit bashing, that is. So pretty cool stuff, pretty interesting, pretty different. Then you get a bit of the information about the actual weaponry itself. So repurposed mining equipment, whether it's demolition charges, the seismic cannon, or heavy mining tools like the disc cutters and stuff like that, which we see quite a few of these all the way through the good old Genestealer cults that we're going to get with this magazine. So pretty cool stuff. Whether it's stolen or redistributed weaponry from the Imperium, whether it's firearms such as las guns, shotguns, and other sorts of relatively small arms, the Weber and stuff like that, which fires sticky strands that can choke and entrap an enemy soldier, and things like the heavy stubber and stuff like that, which is more your machine guns, can all be repurposed from the Astra Militarum. And then we have the actual Xenos biomorph style weapons anyway, which are more your melee weapons, whether it's things like claws, if the hybrid has developed them. They might have cult knives, which are very strange weapons that are of alien origin and stuff like that. And even the bioweapons such as the biological whips and stuff like that the cults may utilise, and bone swords and stuff like that they kind of leak through over on, which all adds to the more kind of scrounged look that the Genestealer cults has. So, which is pretty cool. Then, obviously, we have our collect page for this week as well. So, Neophyte Hybrids, obviously you can give them their unit name, background, and all that good stuff. On the other side, as per usual, you have their data sheet. So you have a little bit of a breakdown of the different weaponry as well on here to kind of give us a bit more of a breakdown on what you're utilising up there. So, pretty decent and handy to have. Moving on from there though, if you're playing along with the magazine, you may be interested in learning about this week's campaign, Eldari versus Leagues of Votan, campaign number 14, all about Clash of Patrols. It's basically going head to head, smashy nicey time with 4 different good old objective markers on there as well, so you get to have a little bit of fun, whether you're going to play as the Leagues of Votan, like I personally would, or if you're going to play as the Eldari, like I know some people would. Your choice, but pretty decent. It's a pretty decent little campaign, pretty decent little fight to have and utilise and get some good weaponry out of it. And apparently these pages are stuck together as per usual, because these aren't cut very well sometimes. Anyway, have a little bit of fun with it. Obviously track your victories, so if you're going through all of it, you've got that table, you can create your own tables and kind of log your victories over the course of the magazine if you wanted to. You don't have to, as per usual, though it is entirely your choice. Moving on from there though, next week. Obviously next week is part 2 of 2. So we have our other part 2, the 10 Neophyte Hybrids, and we'll get their bases and such like that, which all goes a long way to making sure that we have a pretty decent Genestealer cults army. Happy days. Issue 66 gives us 5 of the aberrants. Now these are bigger, guys, melee guys. Yeah, they're very, very kind of horrible mutated creatures from the Genestealer cult range. Multi-limbed, big hands, big faces, big heads, and yeah, grotesquely mutated at exactly the same time. Pretty cool. Yeah, a little bit quirky, a little bit unique, a little bit of fun. So happy days. It should be really good fun to have these guys. And then from there, we're going to get things like the Goliath rock truck and such like that. So, which can make one of two things. So if you want another one, by all means get another one and make the other unit if you wanted to. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. I do quite like Genestealer cults for a little bit of fun, a little bit quirky. Learning their lore is quite interesting at exactly the same time. So they have been around for quite a while, and yeah, they could be around for a while longer. But pretty cool stuff. Moving on from there, though, obviously we will have more videos next week. We will go through a bit more stuff, and I also have something slightly special coming later on, and very, 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 very overdue, in all honesty. So we'll crack on with that soon. But yeah, thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, I will see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.